Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I am Lydia Foxglove and I am a fantasy author as well as a YouTuber. I started this channel at the end of January, and in February I did a video on my monthly income and expenses as an indie author, particularly because I was moving away from a business model where I wrote fantasy romance and paranormal romance to market and doing more of my own thing. Books that I knew probably weren't going to make as much money, but that I was very passionate about. And I'd also reduced my expenses as much as possible in order to take on a little more financial risk with my creative projects. And part of my plan was also to start doing YouTube as my main social media platform because I really love long form content so much more than like TikTok and Instagram and so on. So even though I didn't know a lot of writers that were doing YouTube as a way of marketing their books, I thought, you know what, I would rather do the thing that I truly enjoy even if it's not the best venue. So that was about 6 months ago, and I was monetized pretty quickly, like 6 weeks or something. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I've had a couple of sponsorships. My Patreon is growing. So since then, YouTube has become more of a pillar of my income in and of itself than I expected, and that has shifted my strategy around. And I've also had some people ask me to do an update on the monthly income and expenses now that I have more income coming from YouTube. I like doing these videos now and then because I feel like financial transparency is really important, especially in creative fields where it can be really hard to know like what an average sort of creator makes, if there even is such a thing as average. Sometimes in the indie author groups, you'll get a picture of someone saying like, I had a book that really blew up and I made a ton of money and I'm doing this and this for advertising, but you won't get the full breakdown of like how much they spent on advertising, what their net is. You're not getting the full picture of a career over the course of years. And for me, this is just a really kind of average month. I've had months that were amazing and I've had months that were terrifyingly bad, and this is just like a normal month. However, I also do eBay on the side, and that has really helped with stabilizing my income as well. I think it's pretty common and practical for a lot of creative people to have a flexible side income like eBay, or maybe a business as an editor or a cover designer or a part-time job. So with all that said, let's get into the numbers. This will be for June of 2024. Every month at the end of the month, I write down all the money that I spent and all the money I made and on what. And I just have it in a notebook because I'm an analog kind of girl, and for me it's just easier to keep it all in a notebook that I can refer back to. I've been doing this for a couple of years and I wish that I had been doing it sooner because it has really helped me keep tabs on my expenses. It's made my taxes easier, and it's also helped me to avoid the creep of unnecessary expenses like subscription services, as you will see an instance of as I go through this. So in June, first you got your regular expenses, the ones that are fixed, the ones that you can't avoid. I'm very fortunate to have a very low mortgage because I bought the house in 2019 and refinanced it when rates were bottomed out. So my mortgage is $579. I know you can pause to throw things at me now. It is going to go up though because I just got my tax assessment, and of course the cost of the house is like doubled or something. So the water bill was $150, and that is because I forgot to pay it last month, so that's 2 water bills and 1 late fee. I hate this water bill. I have never been late on bills in my life until I moved here and I encountered this water bill, because I've always paid the bills on the last day of the month. And this water bill always arrives on like the 2nd and is due by the 16th. You only get 2 weeks to pay it. You can't pay it online, and it's monthly, not like quarterly like my previous water bills have mostly been quarterly. So it seems like I'm always just skimming over this water bill. All my credit cards are due on the first day of the month, so I'm still paying my bills on the last day, and then this water bill skirts in there after I'm not thinking about money anymore. I keep paying late fees on it. It's so aggravating. I feel so embarrassed about it. So water bill, $150. It's summer, so lawn care is $100 a month. That's like 5 months of the year. Health insurance is $171. I might have to pay more at the end of the year if I've had a good year, because you have to like estimate your income with the ACA at the beginning of the year, and it's always very hard to estimate my income. Hulu and Disney Plus, $12. It's $80 a month for medicine for my elderly cat, $30 for home security, and $170 for the electric bill. It's not on here because I guess it just missed the day that I paid, but it's $100 a month for our internet and a landline because we live in the mountains and phone service isn't always reliable. Plus I think landlines have better sound. And my partner pays the cell phone bills, so I don't quite remember how much that is, but I have a pretty basic Verizon plan. I've been a little hesitant to switch to one of those cheaper plans like Mint Mobile or something, because I've heard that you don't get like the highest priority on the service. I don't know how that would really play out in real life, but we barely have cell phone service as it is, so I haven't tried that. That would be frugal, but then there's personal. I had an annual magazine subscription renew. I only have 2 magazine subscriptions. One is Enchanted Living and the other is New York Magazine, which I just enjoy. It's like nice to have in the bathroom. So that was $62 a month. And then I gave $100 to help out a friend. So $167 for personal, which is a little high mainly because of the donation. Emergency expenses were $348, which was all medical bills. I had an ultrasound because I was having some perimenopause symptoms, and the doctor just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything more serious going on. Not the most fun way to spend money, but definitely better to check on things early than not. Then we have business expenses. I spent $130 on books. That was a mixture of manga that I wanted to read and books that I meant to resell. But I count all of that as a business expense because most of my books all end up getting resold. I always make a profit every year on reselling manga. So even if I buy them to read, I still say that's a tax write-off because I'm going to sell it and pay taxes on it eventually. And that is generally a source of profit for me. And then I had $287 in business expenses. There was my Canva subscription for $13. There was postage. There was $100 in Facebook ads. And then my Lydia Foxglove website hosting automatically renewed for $176, at which point it occurred to me that I don't have a website for Lydia Foxglove, so I should probably cancel that expense. So after this charge, I went in and I cut that out. I just hold the domain name without actually paying for hosting services. So that should issue a refund, but that's one reason that I like to have a budget, because when I see it on there, tracking it every month, it's much easier to catch those things that are like, wait a minute, I don't need to pay for that. And then there's the most fluctuating expense, food. This month we did very well with food and only spent $625. That's really good for me because I don't really buy the cheapest food. That's one area where I'm not very frugal. Either I like to have a lot of healthy food when I eat at home. There's certain produce that I buy organic. I have a kombucha addiction, and I also always try to buy like humanely raised meat, organic milk, etc. And I also eat out a lot because I have a lot on my plate, and sometimes I just don't have time to cook. Like, something has to give, and cooking is often the thing that has to give. But with all that in mind, I think $625 is a pretty good spend on food. So all in all, our total expenditure for the month was about $2,700. Not extreme frugal, but pretty frugal. I'm definitely not trying to be like extreme frugal, although there have been times in my life where I have been. But currently I'm just trying to keep track of everything and keep tabs on any expenditures that really are kind of pointless, whether they're those like phantom subscriptions that you're not really using, which I also could probably cut Disney Hulu. We haven't really been watching very much TV. Or whether they're things that I'm buying that I'm just buying for the dopamine hit. I don't really care. if I have to write them down at the end of the month, I tend to think twice about it in the future. So I've cut down on those kind of expenses considerably. As you can see, I bought very little that was just like for myself. Almost all of the extra expenditures was either just an annual magazine subscription, charitable, or just a couple volumes of manga from things that I already had the series and I wanted to finish it and I was missing a volume, and I did finish those series. And that was it. Didn't buy any clothes, didn't buy any records or CDs, didn't buy any decor, really no nonsense. And then as far as earnings, what am I making as an indie author and YouTuber? My income is all over the place. So as an author, I made from Amazon $1,193. From Draft to Digital, which includes Apple, library services, and a variety of other stores and subscription services like Smashwords, Tolino, all kinds of places. That was $163. Kobo, which also includes the Kobo Plus subscription service, was $102. Google Play Store, $42. Barnes & Noble, $27. These smaller stores tend to fluctuate like crazy. Sometimes Apple will be the best, sometimes Kobo will be the best, sometimes Google will be the best, and sometimes Barnes & Noble will be the best. It's really like one's up, one's down. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. My YouTube earnings for the month was $729. That includes AdSense, Substack subscriptions, Patreon, and sponsorships. That is another income stream that's going to fluctuate massively, because if I have a viral video, I might make a lot of money compared to a month where nothing's really taking off. And of course, sponsorships also, I'm sure, are going to be very fluctuating. I'm just starting to get them, and I have no idea yet whether that will start to become more stable or whether it will increase, or, you know, that's kind of new to me. Patreon and Substack seem to be a little bit more of a very slow but steady growth. Usually every time I look at my list of Patreons, I'm like taking one person off and adding 2 people. So it's like always like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Nevertheless, $729 a month is awesome, because my goal was to make $1,000 from YouTube within 2 years, and that was including additional book sales derived from YouTube, which I'm sure I have had some, which means YouTube is probably already about where I was hoping that it would be, which is fantastic and is part of the reason that you have been getting more content from me, and why I've slowly been making content that I'm taking more time with, like my video where I'm critiquing first pages. That one took a lot of time. But because the income has been increasing, I've been willing to take a little more risks with my time. This was also a good month because I also got paid for working at the bookstore. In fact, I kind of had some back pay from working at the bookstore. So I got a nice check. That was $1,245, and I'm not working at the bookstore over the summer, so that money is gone for the rest of the summer. And I made $936 selling stuff on eBay. Some of that is my father-in-law's estate that we are still slowly and painstakingly and laboriously selling, and some of it is stuff that I bought to flip. And then I also made $229 in interest on my savings account and stocks and CDs. It was a bit of a bigger month for interest because the index funds that I have pay out quarterly, and June is one of the months where you get that payment, so got a little bit more than usual. So all told, I made $4,668. All told, it was a pretty solid month, and I was able to bank $1,988 in savings, although of course some of that is going to get paid to taxes. And also just looking at these numbers, if next month is like this month, as far as both expenses and income, I will be able to do just fine without the bookstore income, although I won't really be able to contribute a whole lot to savings. However, it does show me that while I could lose the bookstore income or I could lose my eBay income, I can't lose both. I am not yet at the point currently where I'm making my living entirely as a writer and YouTuber. If you've seen my video on how much money all my books have made, there have been times where I've been making very good money writing to market, but I'm not doing that anymore, so my income is very pinched right now. Probably if I cut all my expenses down to the absolute bone, I probably could just scrape by, but that would not be a very fun life. I can be frugal, but I am not a cut it all down to the total bone kind of girl, which, you know, not many of us are. And I also realized that so much of this is possible simply because I managed to secure a very low mortgage payment, which is currently pretty hard unless you move to like the serious sticks. And I disclose all of this because it's so common to look at other people's lives and be like, how are they affording this? And that is one way that a person might be affording it, is if they just manage to get their housing costs down to a very low amount. You might not always know when a person bought their house and when they refinance their house, what kind of interest rate they're paying. Similarly, you never know who is in extreme debt, who is being helped by their parents or other family members. There's so much we don't know about other people's circumstances, or alternatively, they might be dealing with chronic illness that makes it harder to earn money or incurs higher medical costs. There's so many things going on under the surface of other people's lives that can make it either harder or easier to afford their lives. So I like to bring up those little things too, that I did manage to get cheaper housing costs, that I am making some money from selling off my father-in-law's stuff, and also that while I do have a partner, his health isn't great, so he probably costs more than he pays in, but I love him very much, and he is the biggest supporter of my books that I have ever met in my life, which is so much more important to me than money could ever be. And speaking of things that I love, even though they're expensive, there also was no pet food delivery this month, which it just managed to skirt the month, so that's another expense that is missing. Anyway, I rambled a bit, but I hope that you found it interesting just to get a peek under the hood now and then. And if you're new to this channel and you'd like to hear more from me, I talk about the creative life, both the practical, emotional, and financial sides of it. And I'd love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to sign up for either my free Substack or Patreon. There are links in the description. Same content on both. Or my $5 tier gets you access to my Discord server and bonus monthly videos. You can also check out my novels in the description. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. You're not getting the full picture of like... No. It was a nice story time, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. There's your handsome little face. What a handsome little guy. He's such a little sleepy. Everybody's just sleeping away.